The sky above King's Landing still smelled of ash and blood. The great bells had rung, the city had burned, and Daenerys Targaryen, the mother of dragons, was no more. Jon Snow had done what many feared but knew was right. He killed her to stop the madness. But after her death, the world didn't just move on. The lords of Westeros were confused, angry, and afraid. Power had shifted again. The Iron Throne, melted by dragonfire, no longer stood. There was no ruler, just broken cities, empty promises, and a land full of wounds. In the middle of all this, the North stood strong. Robb Stark, once thought to be dead after the Red Wedding, had not truly died. His bannermen, loyal to the end, had saved him. Hidden away in the far north by a small forgotten group of free folk and wildlings, Robb had spent years healing, training, and waiting. Arya Stark had returned from her journey beyond the seas. She had sailed far, but something in her heart told her to return home. She missed Winterfell, and she missed her family. She never wanted to rule, but when she heard of the chaos in Westeros, she knew she had a part to play. Sansa Stark, the Lady of Winterfell, had become colder, sharper. She had seen too much, trusted too many liars, but she had grown into a true leader, quiet, smart, and strong. The North respected her. Many southern lords feared her. And then there was Jon Snow, or should we say, Aegon Targaryen. The truth about his birth had come out too late. He was the true son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, the true heir to the Iron Throne. But Jon wanted none of it. After killing Daenerys, he had vanished beyond the wall, tired of thrones, crowns, and lies. But fate wasn't done with the Stark children. News began to spread across Westeros. The Starks live, and they rise. Robb Stark was alive. Sansa ruled the North. Arya had returned. And Jon was still the true king, no matter how far he ran. The people were tired. They didn't trust Lannisters, didn't want more dragons, and didn't care for another war. What they wanted was peace, stability, and someone who had bled for them, that someone they believed could be the Stark bloodline. It started with whispers, then banners were raised. The Vale stood with the North. Riverrun pledged loyalty to Robb, the young wolf who had survived. The Reach sent messages to Sansa, offering support in exchange for peace. Arya had no army, no title, but her name brought fear and respect. Many remembered the girl who killed the Night King. She became the silent strength behind her siblings. But not everyone was happy. The remnants of the Lannisters, those still hiding, still holding on to scraps of power, began plotting. In the shadows of King's Landing, they whispered of revenge. They said the Starks were wolves in sheep's clothing, pretending to be noble while taking everything. One man in particular, Sir Merrick Lannister, a distant cousin of Jaime and Cersei, started gathering men. He believed the throne still belonged to the south. He called the rise of the Starks an invasion, and far in the east, a surviving loyalist of Daenerys, a young woman named Elia, who claimed to be her secret child, had begun forming a new following. She called herself the Flame of the East and vowed to bring fire back to Westeros. The Starks didn't know all of this yet. For now, they were just beginning to meet again. After years apart, they gathered at Winterfell, the last true home they had. Jon had returned from beyond the wall, not because he wanted power, but because he heard Arya had come home. He wanted to see her. He wanted to see Sansa, and most of all, he wanted peace. Robb rode in days later. When Jon saw him, they embraced like brothers who had lost everything and found each other again. No one said it yet, but everyone could feel it. Westeros was about to change again, and this time it would be a Stark age. Snow fell gently on the walls of Winterfell as the four siblings stood together for the first time in what felt like 100 years. Time had hardened them all in different ways. But in that moment, they didn't feel like rulers, killers, or legends. They were just Starks, just family. Sansa watched her brothers and sister with careful eyes. She had become the most political of them all. Every smile she gave was measured, every word calculated. But tonight her guard was down. She poured wine with her own hands, not a servant in sight, and even allowed herself to laugh. Arya leaned against the cold stone wall, eyes still sharp, still studying the room like a trained killer. She had grown, but she hadn't softened. She spoke the least, but when she did, everyone listened. Robb was the loudest, the warmest, the most alive. He had been to the edge of death and returned. His scars told stories his lips never could. And he smiled more now, not because he was carefree, but because he understood how fragile life was. And Jon was the quiet storm. His eyes carried ghosts. He didn't want thrones. He didn't want wars. But he had that Targaryen blood burning inside him, no matter how much he tried to deny it. As the fire cracked in the great hall, the four of them sat down for a private meeting. No guards, no lords, just them. Robb broke the silence. They want war again. Down south. I've had letters. Some want revenge for Daenerys. Others fear us just because we're still alive, Sansa nodded. They're afraid of unity. The north stands, the Vale joins us, the Riverlands are with us. That makes us powerful. And Westeros doesn't like Starks having power, Arya smirked. Good, let them fear us. I'm tired of hiding, tired of running. We've bled enough. Jon stayed silent. Robb turned to him. What about you, brother? You came back. That means something. I came back because I heard Arya was here, Jon said simply. And because I missed you. That's it, Sansa leaned in. But you know what the people say. They chant your name. Not as Jon Snow, but Aegon Targaryen. They see you as king. I don't want a crown, Jon replied coldly. I killed Daenerys because she was becoming a tyrant. I'm not here to become another one. Sansa looked at him with sympathy, but didn't back down. Maybe the throne needs someone who doesn't want it. Before Jon could reply, a raven flew in through the open window, its wings wet from snow. A guard caught it and handed the scroll to Sansa. She read it, then passed it to Jon without a word. Jon's eyes moved slowly over the words. Then he stood up. It's from King's Landing, he said. Sir Merrick Lannister has declared himself Lord Protector of the Realm. He's taken the Red Keep and he claims I'm a traitor, that I murdered the rightful queen. Arya stood as well, fury rising. He wants a fight. Sansa's voice was low. He'll get one. Robb's fist hit the table. Then we ride. We gather the bannermen. We take King's Landing again, for the last time. But Jon didn't move. His eyes were distant. More blood, more war? Haven't we seen enough? You didn't ask for this, Sansa said gently, but it came anyway. You were born into it, Jon, and whether you like it or not, people will die in your name. Just then, Maester Luwin's replacement entered, panting. Lady Stark, he said, we've just received another message, this one from across the narrow sea. Sansa took the scroll and read it slowly. Her expression darkened. There's someone else, she said. She calls herself Ilya Stormborn, claims to be Daenerys' secret daughter, Arya scoffed. Another Targaryen? Apparently, Sansa said. She's building an army in Essos, says she'll finish what her mother started. Robb shook his head. One war at a time. Jon finally looked at them all. We have no choice now. If Sir Merrick poisons the south with lies, and this Ilya rises in the east, we'll be surrounded. There's only one way, Robb grinned. Say it. Jon didn't smile. We end the game. Sansa rose. No more thrones. No more houses playing gods. We'll give the people what they never had. Rulers who care. Arya stepped forward. Then let's become what they fear. The wolves of Westeros. That night, Winterfell didn't sleep. Ravens flew. Swords were sharpened. Armor was cleaned. The North was preparing to march, not for glory, not for conquest, but to finish a war that had never truly ended. And deep in the shadows of King's Landing, Sir Merrick Lannister stared at a map, moving small wooden wolf pieces across the board. He smiled darkly. Let the Starks come, he whispered. They don't know what's waiting for them. Snow began to melt as the Stark banners rode south. The wolves were moving. Robb Stark led the army, riding ahead with his direwolf, Grey Wind, reborn and fiercer than ever. Whispers followed Robb like wind. The young wolf had returned from the grave. Some called him a ghost, others a god. But to his men, he was a symbol, a promise that the North never forgot its own. Jon rode beside him, less eager. He had seen too many brothers die, too many cities burn. His sword, Longclaw, hung heavy on his back. Not with weight, but with memory. Arya didn't ride with the army. She had slipped away days before, dressed in a faceless man's disguise, already inside King's Landing. She didn't believe in open war, when a single knife in the dark could end a battle before it began. Sansa remained in Winterfell, holding the North together, sending messages, reading every report, keeping every house in check. She was the queen in all but name, and her mind was the sharpest weapon the Starks had. As the army reached the neck, word came that the Vale's army had joined from the east. Lord Robin Arryn, now older and less foolish, stood beside Robb, offering full support. "The wolves deserve the crown," he said, "because they've already paid the price for it." But what they didn't know was that King's Landing wasn't sleeping. Sir Merrick Lannister had turned the city into a trap. He filled the alleys with spies, placed wildfire barrels beneath key streets, and invited ruthless mercenaries from Essos, the Golden Company, promising gold and glory. He wasn't alone either. From the shadows, another figure had arrived, Elia Stormborn. Tall, silver-haired, eyes burning with ambition. She looked too much like Daenerys for it to be a lie. Her dragon, a younger one hatched from a hidden egg, circled the sky at night, unseen by most, but terrifying to those who caught a glimpse. Merrick offered her the throne, but Elia refused. "The throne is mine by blood," she said, "but I'll let you wear the crown for now. Just keep it warm." Merrick didn't trust her, but he needed her. A dragon was still a dragon. Back in the city, Arya watched it all unfold from the shadows. She had taken the face of a brothel maid, moving between drunk soldiers and foolish lords, hearing every whisper. The city was ready to explode, and she knew the Starks didn't know half of what they were walking into. She needed to act. That night, Arya found her way to the Red Keep. Slipping through tunnels once used by Varys, she reached the private chamber of Sir Merrick. He sat alone, sipping wine, a dagger by his side. She moved like death, fast and silent, but just before she struck, a shadow moved behind her. "A trap!" steel clanged. Arya turned, blocking a strike just in time. A masked assassin attacked, not one of Merrick's men, but one of Elya's. A girl, trained like Arya, a mirror of herself. Fast, cold, emotionless, they fought in silence. Blades flashing, shadows dancing on the walls. Arya won, barely, cutting the girl's throat and fleeing the chamber. Bleeding from a wound on her side. Merrick never even saw her. Arya escaped through the tunnels, her blood staining the stones. Meanwhile, outside the city, Jon, Robb, and the army had reached the outskirts of King's Landing. The city walls stood tall, guarded, but not impossible to break. Jon looked at the smoke rising from within. "Something's wrong," he said. "Too quiet," Robb agreed. "The city's always loud, but now it feels dead." Suddenly, a lone rider approached. It was Arya, pale, bloodied, but alive. She dropped from her horse and walked straight to Jon. "They know you're coming," she said. "They've set traps. Merrick's got wildfire under the city, and he's not alone." Jon's heart dropped. "Who?" Arya looked at him grimly. "Daenerys' daughter. She's real, and she's here, with a dragon," Robb cursed under his breath. "Another dragon," Arya nodded. "And she's worse than her mother, smarter, colder. She wants the same thing, to burn Westeros and start fresh." Jon stared at the city. The memories of Daenerys' destruction still haunted him. He had stopped one dragon queen. Could he do it again? He turned to Robb. "We can't just attack. We'll lose everything." Robb looked at the army behind them. "Tired, brave men ready to die. Then what do we do?" Jon looked back at Arya. "We changed the game. That night, the Starks began rewriting the rules of war. They would not just fight for thrones. They would hunt monsters. And this time, they wouldn't stop until Westeros belonged to the wolves." The stars hung low over the camp outside King's Landing. Fires burned softly among the tents, but there was little sleep. The Stark army had grown restless, not because they feared the enemy, but because they knew something wasn't right. Jon Snow stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the city. Its spires and walls looked the same, but the air around it felt wrong. It smelled of lies, of rot, of something dark boiling beneath the surface. Behind him, Arya stitched up the wound on her side. She refused to heal her. She didn't trust anyone she didn't know by name anymore. "I've seen wildfire barrels hidden under bakeries," Arya said. "Children playing in streets that could explode at any second. It's not a city anymore, it's a trap." Jon nodded. "If we storm the walls, he'll burn it all. The people, the soldiers, everything. And then Elia will fly in and act like a savior," Arya muttered. "Just like her mother." Robb arrived, wiping blood from his sword. "Scouts say Merrick's meeting with Associ sellswords. Their numbers are growing." Arya looked at both of them. "We can't win this by fighting fair." Jon's face was grim. "Then we don't." That night, under cover of darkness, they launched a different kind of attack. Small teams of Stark men, dressed as merchants and peasants, began slipping into the city. Their job wasn't to fight, it was to sow fear, to spread rumors, to whisper truths into ears of bakers, blacksmiths, and beggars. The Lannisters will burn the city again. The North brings justice and not fire. The Targaryen girl wants to finish what Daenerys started. By morning, half the city was whispering. Merrick tried to control it, ordering executions, beheadings, and curfews. But fear had already taken root. Meanwhile, Sansa's message arrived from Winterfell, carried by a raven with a crimson ribbon. Robb read it aloud. "You are not fighting for a throne. You are fighting for memory. If you lose, they will rewrite the story. Again." He handed the scroll to Jon. "She's right," Jon said. "They already forgot the Red Wedding. They forgot what Daenerys did. They'll forget us too, if we die quietly." But before they could move, a rider approached the camp, waving a white banner. A young man, not older than 20, with golden hair and a smooth, almost smug face. "I bring a message from Sir Merrick Lannister," the rider said. "He requests a meeting at sunrise, at the ruins of the Sept of Baelor." Robb frowned. "A parley?" Jon narrowed his eyes. "Or a trick?" Arya stepped forward. "Let me go." Jon shook his head. "No, if it's a trap." "They'll expect you." Robb looked at Jon. "Then you and I go together, and so at dawn." Jon and Robb rode to the ruined Sept. The stone still bore black scorch marks from Cersei's destruction years ago. It smelled of ghosts. Merrick waited there, standing beside a tall figure cloaked in silver robes. Elia Stormborn. Jon's jaw tightened when he saw her. She looked too much like Daenerys. Her eyes, her posture, even the way she tilted her head, but her smile was different, crueler. "Jon Snow," Merrick greeted, his tone full of mockery. "Or do you prefer Aegon now?" Jon ignored him. "Speak your terms." Merrick stepped aside and Elia walked forward. "You killed my mother," she said coldly. "Stabbed her in the heart while pretending to love her." "I did what had to be done," Jon said. "She burned thousands alive. You know that." Elia smiled, a terrifying calm in her voice. "And yet you stand here trying to claim the same throne. The hypocrisy of wolves is almost poetic." Robb's hand went to his sword. "What do you want?" "I offer you a choice," Merrick said. "Bend the knee. Acknowledge Elia as queen, or we'll burn this entire field to ash, starting with your soldiers, then your homes." Jon looked at Elia. "You want to rule through fire and fear, just like your mother?" "No," Elia whispered. "I will rule by blood." Suddenly behind them something roared, a sound no man forgets, a dragon. It burst through the clouds. Wings wide, fire in its throat. Jon and Robb turned, hearts pounding, but it wasn't aiming for them. It flew over the Stark camp. Screams rose as the beast unleashed its fire on the tents, burning horses and men alive. Panic spread. It had been a trick all along. The parley was a distraction. Jon grabbed Robb. "We have to go, now!" They ran to their horses, rode hard through the smoke. From the cliff, Arya watched in horror as flames swallowed the camp. She dropped her disguise and vanished into the chaos. The wolves had come south with hope in their Hearts, now they watched it burn, and Elia Stormborn stood on the ruins of the Sept, smiling as her dragon roared. Ash rained from the sky like snow. What was once the proud northern camp now lay in smouldering ruins. Bodies burned in piles, the stink of roasted flesh hanging in the air. Horses screamed in agony before falling silent. The dragon hadn't just attacked. It had sent a message. This was no longer a war for the throne. It was a hunt, and the Starks were the prey. Jon and Robb emerged from the smoke, covered in soot and blood, their armor scorched, their horses nearly dead from exhaustion. They had lost half the army in minutes. No warning, no mercy, and yet they were still alive. Arya found them near a broken cart, helping wounded soldiers crawl out of the burning debris. Her face was blank, not cold but focused. The kind of focus that came right before someone's death. "She tricked us," Jon muttered. "Used the parley as bait." "Not her first time," Arya said, her voice sharp as a blade. "And probably not her last." Robb's eyes were red with fury. "She wants to be a queen." "Fine, then let her wear the crown of corpses." Jon shook his head. "We can't win this war with numbers anymore. We're outmatched. And now that dragon—" "We don't need to kill the dragon," Arya interrupted, eyes fixed on Jon. "We need to kill the rider." The three stood there in silence. It was an impossible task. But impossible was exactly what the Starks had become good at. Meanwhile, inside King's Landing, Elia Stormborn stood atop the Red Keep. Her dragon, Azirax, circled overhead, its wings blotting out the sun. She was calm. Too calm. Sir Merrick approached from behind. "Half the northern army is gone. The rest have scattered. The wolves are limping," but Elia didn't smile. "They're Starks," she said. "They don't limp for long. They come back stronger, always." Merrick scoffed. "Then what do we do? Burn them all before they rise again?" Elia turned to him, her voice like ice. "No, we let them come. We let them crawl back with vengeance in their eyes. And when they're close enough, we cut their throats." Back in the woods beyond the city, Jon and Robb regrouped with the remnants of their forces. The Vale soldiers had taken heavy losses. The River Lords were scattered. The Northmen, though bloodied, still stood firm, refusing to retreat. That night, Sansa's raven arrived. Jon read the scroll by firelight. Her words were short but sharp. "The throne isn't the goal. The legacy is. Make sure history remembers who fought for the people and who burned them." Jon passed the scroll to Robb, then looked to Arya. "I have a plan. But it'll take more than swords. It'll take fear." Arya raised an eyebrow. "You want to scare Elia?" "No," Jon said. "I want to make her think she's already won." 3 nights later, Elia stood at the gates of the Red Keep as a wagon rolled into the city. It was marked with northern banners, torn and blood-stained. The guards halted it. Weapons drawn, a hooded man stepped out. Hands raised, it was Jon Snow, or so they thought. He was dragged inside, thrown before Elia in the great hall. She looked down at him with a smirk. "And here I thought you'd run like a coward." The man said nothing, just looked up at her with defeated eyes. Elia knelt beside him. "Did you think surrendering would save your family?" Still, silence. But what Elia didn't know, what no one in that room could see, was that the man kneeling before her wasn't Jon Snow at all. It was Gendry, son of Robert Baratheon, wearing a perfect mask crafted by Arya herself. The face of Jon Snow, taken from a body double-killed days earlier in a staged betrayal, and at that very moment, Arya was already inside the Red Keep, wearing the face of one of Elia's guards. Knife in hand, eyes locked on her target, as Elia turned away, barking orders, Arya began to move, but just as she raised the blade, something went wrong. Merrick burst into the hall, eyes wide. "There's a breach in the east wall. The Northmen, they're inside." Chaos exploded. Arya dropped the dagger and vanished in the confusion. Gendry was dragged away by guards, and Elia smiled. She had expected it. The entire thing, the surrender, the mask, even the infiltration. She had predicted it all. "You think I don't know how wolves hunt?" she whispered to herself. "You forget who taught me the game. because Elia Stormborn hadn't just inherited her mother's blood, she had inherited her enemy's tactics, and she was about to turn them against the last Starks. The Red Keep was in chaos, but Elia stood still, calm in the storm. While soldiers shouted and ran, and alarms rang across the city, she walked slowly back to her private chambers. Her fingers brushed the stone walls. This castle had once belonged to her mother, to her ancestors. Now it was hers. Behind her, Sir Merrick stormed in, dragging the fake Jon Snow by the collar. Gendry's face bloodied, bruised, but alive. He wasn't Jon, Merrick spat. It was a trick. A trap. Elia didn't even look. Of course it was. Then why allow it? He demanded. Why let them inside? She turned to face him now. Her voice didn't rise. It never needed to. Because now I know how far they're willing to go. And more importantly, I know who among us let them in. Merrick stiffened. Elia smiled slowly. You were careless with your gold, Sir Merrick. One of your own men was bought by the Vale, a Raven Knight. Slipped Arya inside without blinking. He stepped back. That's impossible. But before he could finish, Elia nodded once. Two of her guards moved in. One struck Merrick in the back of the leg, dropping him to the ground. The other stabbed him straight through the chest. He gasped, blood pouring from his mouth. I served you. You served yourself, Elia said coldly. Like every other Lannister coward. She turned and walked out, not even watching him die. Merrick Lannister, the last of Cersei's name, was gone. Outside the city, Jon and Robb stood by the riverbank, staring at the glowing walls of King's Landing. I think she let us do it, Jon said. Watching the smoke rise, Robb's fists clenched. She's playing us. Every move we make, she's already seen it. We underestimated her, Jon admitted. She's not Daenerys. She's smarter. Robb turned to him. Then what do we do? Keep playing her game. One move behind. Jon didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the sky. I have to talk to Bran. Far beyond the wall, in a place untouched by war, Bran Stark, the three-eyed raven, sat beneath the weirwood tree. His eyes were white, his soul lost in visions of the past and the future. But when Jon arrived, Bran was already waiting. You've come too late, Bran said without turning. Jon sat beside him. Tell me what I'm fighting. I need more than shadows. Bran's voice was distant. Elia is fire and vengeance. She was raised by those who hated the Starks. After Daenerys died, her followers scattered, but they found her, raised her, fed her nothing but stories of blood and betrayal. Jon's jaw tightened. She thinks this is revenge, Bran nodded. She doesn't want to rule. She wants to erase. She'll burn the South, the North, everything, just to prove she's more than her mother, Jon whispered. Can she be stopped? Bran turned to him, eyes back to normal. Only if the wolves stop fighting like men and start hunting like beasts. Back in Winterfell, Sansa received 2 ravens, one from Arya, wounded but alive in the shadows of the Red Keep. The second, from someone she had not heard from in years, Tyrion Lannister. He was alive, hidden in Old Town, waiting. She is not her mother, but she's far worse. And she is not alone. She has something even more dangerous than a dragon. She has him. Sansa's eyes froze on the last word. Him. The letter ended with a name, Viserys. Her hands began to shake. Viserys Targaryen, Daenerys's brother, the Mad Prince who was believed to be long dead. But Tyrion's letter claimed otherwise. He had survived, broken, hiding, and now, reborn under a new name, he was advising Elia, a dragon queen raised by her mother's ghosts and guided by her uncle's madness. Sansa whispered to herself, we're not fighting a queen, we're fighting a dynasty reborn. As the sun set over the battlefield, Jon returned to the camp with a new fire in his eyes. We're done playing defense, he said. Robb looked up. What do you mean? Jon drew his sword. We divide their city. Burn their secrets. Find Viserys, kill him. Then the dragon, Robb grinned. And Elia? Jon's voice was cold. I'll handle her. But Arya had already made a move. That night, deep inside the Red Keep, she slipped into Elia's private library. What she found there chilled her to the bone. A map, not just of Westeros, but beyond lines drawn through Winterfell. The Eyrie, the Wall, even the far reaches of the Shadowlands. Elia didn't want to rule Westeros, she wanted to wipe it clean. The rain poured over the ruins of what once was a peaceful field. Now it was a graveyard of broken swords and burned flags. Fires crackled under the stormy sky as Jon Snow stood staring at the flickering embers. Every face he had failed haunted him, every man lost in Ilya's fire, every mistake carved into his soul. He wasn't just a Stark, he wasn't just a Targaryen. He was the last line between a dying world and complete destruction. Robb approached from behind. Cloak-soaked, eyes heavy. The men are tired, Jon. Some want to return north, protect their homes. Others say we can't fight dragons. Jon turned to him, voice steady. Then we remind them that dragons bleed. He raised Longclaw. And queens die. In the dark halls of the Red Keep, Elia stood alone in the war room. Viserys Targaryen, once thought dead, now gaunt and quiet, paced in the shadows. His eyes twitched. He was no longer the whining brother Daenerys remembered. He was colder now, more calculated, as if years of exile had carved madness into wisdom. "They're not afraid of fire anymore," he murmured. "The wolves still come." Elia didn't look at him. "Then we give them something worse than fire." Viserys grinned. "The blood of wolves tastes best when they still believe they can win." Elia pointed to the northern edge of the map. "They've left Winterfell weak. Take the dragon. Burn it." Viserys blinked, confused. "Burn Winterfell? But the north? They will crumble if they have no home to return to." Viserys nodded slowly, the hunger for vengeance lighting in his eyes again. Far away, inside a secret tunnel beneath the Red Keep, Arya watched from the shadows. She had heard everything. Her fingers gripped the dagger at her belt, breath slow and calm. She could strike now, kill Elia, but something held her back, something she hadn't told Jon. In her time in the castle, Arya had discovered more than just maps and plans. She had found a child, a girl no older than 6, locked away in a chamber guarded by Targaryen loyalists. The child had silver hair, and she called Elia mother. Back in the camp, Jon stood before his commanders. What was left of them? The Vale, the River Lords, Northern Bannermen, all battered, bloodied, but standing. "We can't win by storming gates," Jon said. "But we don't need to," he turned to Robb. "We fake surrender. Offer a truce." "One last meeting," Robb raised an eyebrow. "Like last time?" Jon's eyes narrowed. "No, this time we decide who walks into the trap." He looked out at the men. "While I draw her out, Arya finishes the job." Elia received Jon's message 2 days later. "A single raven. 5 words, let's end it. No thrones," she smiled. "Let him come." At dawn, Jon arrived at the ruins of Dragonstone, the once great fortress of House Targaryen, now a shell of black stone and bad memories. The sea crashed below. Winds howled. Arya waited on the throne of black rock. Her dragon sat perched high on a cliff behind her. Watching, Jon walked alone. No sword, no army, just the weight of a kingdom in his shadow. "You're brave," Elia said. "Or foolish." "I'm tired," Jon replied. "Of war, of fire, of pretending any of us are better than those who came before." Elia tilted her head. "Then kneel." Jon stared at her. "I didn't kneel for your mother." "I won't kneel for you." She stood, eyes narrowing. "Then you die." But before she could speak the word to summon her dragon, a scream echoed from the cliff. The dragon shrieked. Its wings flapped wildly, and then it fell. From the heights, the great beast tumbled into the sea. Its neck slit clean, its life gone before it knew it had been attacked. Jon didn't flinch. Elia turned, horror in her eyes. From behind the rocks, Arya Stark emerged, drenched in sea spray, her blade soaked in dragon's blood. "I told your mother," she said coldly. "I'd kill the next Targaryen who tried to rule with fire." Elia screamed, rage, grief, shock, all twisted into one. But Jon stepped forward. "This ends now. No more dragons, no more thrones, no more burning the world just to feel powerful." Elia fell to her knees, trembling, but Jon couldn't kill her. She was broken, defeated, and then Arya spoke, voice quiet. "She has a daughter." Jon looked at her sharply. "What?" She kept it secret. A child. She might be the last Targaryen now. Jon stepped back. Memories of Daenerys rushed through him, the dream of breaking the wheel, the ashes of that dream. "Then we protect her," Jon whispered. Arya raised an eyebrow. "After all this," Jon nodded, "we break the cycle, right here." That night, Robb marched into the Red Keep with northern banners flying. There was no battle, no blood. The war was over. But the cost had been unimaginable. Arya Stormborn was locked away, not executed, not paraded, just forgotten. A queen who dreamed of fire, swallowed by the silence of history. And the child, Sansa took her north, to be raised not as a queen, not as a conqueror, but as a child of peace. The cold winds had returned to Winterfell, but this time they did not carry the scent of war. The great hall was full again, not of lords drunk on power, but of survivors. People who had bled and burned and still stood. The North had won, but not in the way stories were usually told. There had been no glorious conquest, no coronation, no throne, just ashes and a single truth. The Starks had saved Westeros, not by taking power, but by refusing to let it destroy them. Jon Snow sat alone near the fire, gazing into the flames. He didn't wear armor anymore, just furs, the old black of the Night's Watch. He had refused every offer. Lord of the North, King of Westeros, even Warden of the Realms. "I've worn too many names," he had said. "I'd rather just be a man." And yet everyone still called him king. Robb had changed too. He no longer burned with the rage of battle. He was quieter now, more thoughtful. He helped rebuild the riverlands, buried the dead with his own hands, and spent his days with the people, not above them. Many said he was the North's beating heart, not a ruler, but a symbol of resilience. Sansa was the real force behind it all. She sat at the high table now, beside Maester Samwell and Lady Brienne. Her presence commanded respect, calm, sharp, unshakable. She didn't need a crown. She was already the North's queen, and the South's fear. Arya had vanished again, just weeks after the war ended. No goodbyes, no farewells, just a whisper left behind. "I have more names." Some said she went back across the sea. Others said she now roamed the free cities, hunting the last Targaryen loyalists one by one. Whatever the truth, the world knew one thing. The girl who killed dragons did not forgive, and she never forgot. In the depths of a tower far from the great hall, Arya Stormborn sat in silence. She didn't scream anymore, didn't threaten. The fire in her had died with her dragon. She spent her days looking out the window, not at the sky, but at the courtyard below, where her daughter now played with northern children. No one called the girl Princess. She was just Lyra, a name Sansa had given her after their mother. Jon visited sometimes, never for long. They never spoke of Daenerys, never spoke of Azirax the dragon, or Viserys, whose body was buried in secret beneath the ruins of Dragonstone. They only spoke of the child. "You're giving her a life her mother never had," Jon told Elia once, and Elia, with hollow eyes, had whispered, "Then don't let her become me." Months passed. The lords of Westeros gathered for a final council, not to choose a king, but to decide something greater, how the realm should be ruled now that thrones had failed. Sansa stood before them. "We've seen what happens when power lives in the hands of one," she said. "Targaryens, Lannisters, even the Starks. One crown, one throne, too easy to corrupt. So what do you propose?" asked Gendry, now Lord of Storm's End. Sansa turned to him. "A council, a ruling body of lords and ladies. Chosen, not born. A vote, not a bloodline. No more kings." Silence followed, then one by one. They nodded. It was slow, awkward, but it was change. Westeros would no longer be ruled by a single name. The Game of Thrones was over. Later that evening, Jon stood with Ghost by the Godswood. Robb approached, carrying a flagon of wine. "No crown, no titles, no thrones," Robb said. "After everything we've fought for, it ends like this." Jon smiled softly. "It ends better than it began." Robb raised his cup. To the wolves, John raised his as well. To the ones we lost, they drank in silence. Then Robb added, "You know they'll still sing songs about you," John chuckled. "Let them sing. I'll be north of the wall by then." Robb looked at him. "You're leaving?" John nodded. "Somewhere quiet, where no one knows my name, where I can breathe again." Robb didn't stop him. He just said, "Then go. But don't forget where you came from." "I never could," John said. "I'm a Stark." And so Westeros changed. No Iron Throne, no dragons above the sky, no queens in chains or kings on golden chairs, just a scarred land healing, slowly, painfully but finally, and in the north, in the halls of Winterfell. The children of the wolf still watched, still waited, still guarded the world from those who would burn it again, because peace was not a gift. It was something the wolves had earned, with blood, with pain, and with the strength to walk away from power when everyone else would have taken it. And so the people remembered. The age of fire ended with dragons. The age of wolves began with mercy.